Hi friends, Dr. Renee here, the women's holistic health expert, and I wanted to come to you today to talk about what other hormones stress can impact aside from what we always talk about, which is cortisol. So yes, we're all stressed right now, right? Situation's different. We're all at home. We're all dealing with the kids homeschooling. Hopefully some of you guys are starting to get a little bit more adjusted. However, many are not, and I still see it every day. But what I want to talk about today is some of the other hormones that can be impacted by an elevated stress level. So let's talk with what we already know, cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone released from our adrenal glands, and it's our fight or flight response, right? That tiger jumps out from the bush, the cortisol goes up, hopefully comes back down after the tiger goes away. And we get all these physiological processes going on in our body because of that cortisol response. The problem arises when that cortisol remains high for a long period of time, but that is not the subject of this video. The subject is to talk about the other hormones that can be either increased or decreased because of stress. Another hormone, also from the adrenal glands, and in case you don't know, the adrenal glands are two little pyramid-shaped organs on top of your kidneys. So you have two of them, okay? And one of the other hormones that is released, which you probably also always hear, is called adrenaline or epinephrine. And you get that adrenaline rush, which is always kind of like a good thing, but it's not a good thing, again, over a long period of time, because just like cortisol, adrenaline or epinephrine over a long period of time can cause some systemic problems, such as an elevated heart rate and blood pressure. So that is not good. And it's the thing that makes you sweat. Do you ever get so fired up and so hyped up and stressed that you start sweating? I used to get it all the time when I get up in front of people to do a speech. I was never a good public speaker until I'm better now, but I was never good when I was younger. And I would get that adrenaline response, okay? Another hormone that increases in response to stress is norepinephrine. Norepinephrine. Misspoke a little bit there. And that's also from your adrenal glands. Also called noradrenaline, just like epinephrine is adrenaline, norepinephrine, noradrenaline. Again, also from your adrenal glands, can also cause heart rate to go up, blood pressure to go up. It can also cause anxiety. So if you're already feeling anxious, it can make you feel more anxious, and may actually affect your sleep. So elevated norepinephrine over long periods of time may impact your sleep, and that's not good, because that's going to further compact your stress level. So another thing that can increase with stress is insulin. So I talk about this all the time. I talk about insulin in regards to blood sugar, in regards to cortisol and stress. So what happens is it's actually a vicious cycle with stress. Stress causes a rise in cortisol. Cortisol causes a rise in blood sugar. Why? Because just think about it. When you are going to have to run from a tiger, you're going to need sugar basically for energy, right? To fuel your muscles. So you quickly get sugar released from your liver, okay? Because that's where one of the storage places. That's really the place where you can tap into it quickly, okay? So you tap in, you get it, but then what happens is your body's like, oh, too much sugar in your bloodstream. Let's release some insulin. So then insulin is released from an organ called the pancreas. Well, insulin puts sugar away. So then what happens? Your brain's like, oh, no more sugar, and we're still trying to run from the tiger. Release more sugar. And so you can see where this is going, right? It's this vicious cycle of stress going up, cortisol going up, secreting the stored sugar, which stimulates more insulin to be produced, okay? And this can be problematic over time because chronically high cortisol leads to chronically high sugars, leads to chronically high insulin levels, okay? And that's a whole nother topic, which we're not gonna talk about in this video, but just be aware that that can happen. Also, another hormone that can increase with stress is something called prolactin. Now, you may not have heard of this except for when you're pregnant, it goes up. When you're breastfeeding, it goes up because it helps with milk production. But also what happens is it can go up with stress. And in turn, this can actually impact your estrogen and progesterone, because a high prolactin can actually cause you not to have a period. And it can actually also impact your emotions. So, not necessarily something that we want to go up or have elevated for a long period of time, right? And another thing that can actually be altered with stress, another hormone, is estrogen. And estrogen doesn't go up, estrogen goes down. And this is actually a couple of reasons why this happens. Number one, a precursor to estrogen, a hormone called pregnenolone, oftentimes is shunted away from making estrogen to preferably go and make cortisol. Now, this is really hard to study, but that is one theory. Another one is that sometimes stress just impacts the hormones coming from the brain that stimulates your ovaries. So I don't know if you've ever realized when you're super stressed, sometimes you don't even get a period, right, ladies? And what that is doing basically is it's your body's way of protecting you. What does that mean? That means if you are so stressed, your body realizes, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. Sometimes people get so stressed that their body thinks they're gonna die. Their brain. So the brain's like, we have to protect her, and right now is not the time to have a baby. So they shut down your ovaries and make them really super quiet. So that is one way that actually, two ways actually that your estrogen can be impacted. And so then you think about it. So if your estrogen's low, what does that mean? Well, you're not going to have regular menstrual cycles, and that actually can also impact your emotions. There has actually been a study done that's trying to link, it's really hard to do, but we all know, ladies, that with our cycling hormones, with our periods, that our emotions also usually cycle. So there has to be some sort of hormonal connection. And actually the rates of depression in boys and girls is the same until puberty hits. And then women are 1.5 to 3 times more likely to suffer from depression than men. So it goes to show you that there's something biologically and most likely hormonal with us that the men don't have that we're dealing with. So those lower estrogen levels certainly will impact a potential for emotional disturbances. And the last thing I want to talk about is testosterone. So my men out there, this might impact you more than my ladies, because just like the precursors to make estrogen will be shunted to make cortisol, which is a stress hormone, the precursors that make testosterone will also be shunted to make cortisol, okay? And so you won't have as much of the precursors to make the actual hormone because it's going to be made into cortisol instead. And how that can look for mostly men is some emotional lability. So I have seen a lot of men with lower testosterone feel very tearful. They're very emotional. They start losing muscle mass. And usually what used to bring them into my office is they had no libido. They did not want to have sex. So that really hit home with my men. So those are some hormones that actually can be impacted with stress, aside from just the typical cortisol that we also always talk about. The other hormone, one other ones I wanna add in here before this ends, is ghrelin. That is our stimulant. That's our hunger hormone. Basically, it stimulates our appetite. And so when we're stressed, and usually that goes with not sleeping, our ghrelin goes up, which makes us hungrier. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, you're super stressed, all you want to do is eat. And we're going to talk about that in the next video, where we talk about some of the signs or symptoms that you might be having that might indicate that your hormones are off, most likely due to stress. So stay tuned for that.